Let me ask you something. When was the last time you walked into a room and felt embarrassed about what you were wearing? When was the last time you scrolled Instagram and suddenly felt like your life wasn't good enough? When was the last time you bought something expensive, not because you needed it, but because of how it would make you look? If you've done any of those things, and I'm willing to bet you have because I have, then this video is the most important 20 minutes of financial content you will ever consume. Because today, we are going to talk about the logo scam. And before you click off thinking this is just another stop buying coffee video, it is not. This is deeper than that. This is about the psychology that is being used against you every single day by billion-dollar corporations whose entire business model depends on you feeling inadequate. Here is the most uncomfortable truth I am going to tell you today. The brands you buy to look rich are the exact reason you are broke. Same shirt, same cotton, same factory in the same country. The only difference, one has a tiny embroidered logo on the chest. That little logo costs you $495. You are not buying quality. You are not buying craftsmanship. You are not buying comfort. You are buying a logo. You are spending $500 to become a walking billboard for a company that doesn't know your name, doesn't care about your financial future, and is actively laughing all the way to the bank while you're out here financing their next yacht. And here's the part that really stings. The people who actually own these brands, the CEOs, the founders, the hedge fund managers who hold the stock, they don't dress like that. Warren Buffett famously wears a cheap suit. Mark Zuckerberg wears a gray t-shirt. The people who own the logos don't wear the logos because they understand something that the brand wants you to never figure out. The logo is not for them. The logo is for you. It's a trap. Stop falling for it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, but sometimes luxury means quality. Sometimes you're paying for the craftsmanship. Let me stop you right there. Some luxury goods, sure. Swiss watches with in-house mechanical movements, handcrafted Italian leather goods with generations of artisan tradition. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the $500 hoodies, the $300 baseball caps, the $1,200 sneakers, the $3,000 handbags made in a factory with the same labor and materials as their $40 counterpart. The fashion luxury market, the stuff you see rappers wear in music videos, the stuff that gets pushed on your For You page every single day, that is not a quality play. That is a status play, and the game is rigged against you from the start. So let's talk about why you keep playing it anyway, because this is where it gets really, really interesting. Here is the core of everything we are going to talk about today. It's not about fashion. It's not about trends. It's about the most vulnerable, primal part of your brain being weaponized against your financial future. Let me explain what's actually happening when you buy a designer brand. Your brain, specifically a little almond-shaped structure called the amygdala, processes social threat the same way it processes physical threat. When you feel socially inferior, your brain reacts almost identically to how it would if a predator was chasing you. Your cortisol spikes, your heart rate increases, you feel genuine psychological distress. Now, marketers know this. They have neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists on their payroll, people who have spent careers studying exactly which levers to pull to trigger this threat response in you. And they know that the fastest way to neutralize that threat, the fastest way to make that distress stop, is to give your brain a social status signal. That's what a logo does. It's not a fashion choice, it's an emotional painkiller. You buy the brand to feel better, to feel seen, to feel worthy. And for about 48 hours, maybe a week, it works. And then the feeling fades, and you need another hit, and another, and another. This is not a personality flaw. This is neurochemistry, but understanding it is how you break free from it. This brings me to what I call the ego purchase. An ego purchase is any purchase where the primary driver is not utility, not quality, and not genuine enjoyment, but rather the impression it creates in the minds of other people. Let me paint you a picture. There's a guy, let's call him Marcus. Marcus makes $50,000 a year. He's a decent earner, not rich, but comfortable. Marcus also drives a leased BMW 3 Series. He wears a Rolex he bought on a payment plan. His apartment is full of designer pieces he bought on buy now, pay later. From the outside, Marcus looks incredible. Marcus looks like he's doing it. From the inside, Marcus is suffocating. Between the car lease, the credit card minimums, the buy now, pay later payments, and the phone contract for the latest iPhone, Marcus is spending about $2,800 a month just to maintain the illusion that he's wealthy. On $50,000 a year, that's roughly $4,100 take-home per month. Marcus has about $1,300 left for rent, food, and everything else. Marcus is not rich. Marcus is performing richness, and Marcus is exhausted. And this is what I call the dangerous illusion, and it is genuinely dangerous, not just financially, but psychologically. Because the moment you build an identity around looking wealthy, you become trapped by it. You can't downgrade the car because what will people think? You can't stop wearing the brand because that's who you are now. You can't be honest about your finances because the whole persona collapses. The golden handcuffs. This is one of the most sinister traps in modern personal finance, and almost nobody talks about it in these terms. The golden handcuffs are what happens when your lifestyle cost grows to match or exceed your income. So no matter how much more you earn, you never actually get ahead. You get a raise, your wardrobe gets an upgrade. You get a bonus, new car. Promotion, new apartment in a more expensive neighborhood. The hedonic treadmill just speeds up. You run faster and faster, and you go absolutely nowhere. Now think about the people who are truly wealthy, not the people who look wealthy, the people who are wealthy. The data on this is fascinating, and it runs completely counter to everything pop culture tells you. Dr. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying actual American millionaires for his landmark book, The Millionaire Next Door. What he found shattered every stereotype. The average millionaire, statistically, drives a used Toyota, lives in a modest house in an unremarkable neighborhood, wears an average-priced watch, doesn't have designer clothes, doesn't lease, doesn't perform. Because real wealth is built through one mechanism and one mechanism only, the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap, that margin is what you invest. That investment is what compounds. That compounding is what builds generational wealth. And every single ego purchase you make narrows that gap. It is a direct subtraction from your actual future wealth. Your brain is broke. Not because you're stupid, you are not stupid, but because your brain is running ancient social survival software in a world that has been engineered to exploit it. Recognizing that is the first step to overriding it. Okay, so we've talked about the internal psychology, the way your own brain works against you. Now I want to talk about the external pressure, because even if you personally decide today that you're going to stop buying logos, stop leasing cars to impress people, stop making ego purchases, you are still going to face one of the most powerful forces in personal finance: your friends. I don't mean your friends are bad people. I don't mean they're doing this maliciously, but I want you to understand something. Your social circle is one of the most powerful financial forces in your life, and most of the time it is working against your financial progress. Here's how the friend tax works. Your friend group, let's say it's 5 people, collectively establishes a social baseline, a standard of living that feels normal in the context of that group. Maybe everyone in your friend group goes to a certain type of restaurant. Maybe everyone takes a trip together twice a year. Maybe when someone has a birthday, there's a social expectation of a certain level of gift. Maybe when there's a girls' trip or a guys' weekend, the hotel has to be a certain tier. None of this is explicitly stated. There's no meeting where everyone sits down and agrees to these rules, but the rules are real, and if you break them, the social consequences feel enormous. So you go, because you don't want to feel left out, because you don't want to seem broke, because you've been conditioned, by the same psychology we just talked about, to prioritize your social status above your financial health. And you pull out the credit card, and you smile, and you post the picture, and you go home and you can't sleep because you know that dinner just set you back 3 weeks. Now multiply that by 12 months, multiply it by 5 years. The friend tax isn't one dinner. The friend tax is the compound cost of every single time you spent money you didn't have to maintain a social position you couldn't afford. And here's the part that really hurts. The people you're doing this for, half of them are doing the exact same thing. Half of them went home after that dinner and couldn't sleep either. You are all performing for each other. You are all broke together, but none of you will say it, because saying it breaks the illusion, and the illusion is the whole point.
This is the middle class trap in its purest form. And I want to be very specific about why I use that term, middle class. Not to be insulting, but because this trap is specifically designed to prey on the middle class. Here's why. Truly poor people can't afford the luxury trap. They simply don't have the credit access or discretionary income to participate at scale. Truly wealthy people don't need the status signal. Their wealth is self-evident, and they've long since stopped needing external validation. But the middle class has just enough income to participate, just enough credit access to overextend, and just enough social anxiety to make the ego purchase feel necessary. The middle class is the sweet spot for every luxury brand's marketing department. They are the target. You are the target. And the weapon they use to close the deal? The payment trap. Buy now, pay later, credit cards with 28% APR, store financing, installment plans on clothing. Let me say that again, installment plans on clothing. We have reached a point in consumer culture where people are financing items that will be out of fashion before they finish paying them off. You are paying interest on a hoodie that's going to be worth nothing in 6 months. You are paying a bank a fee for the privilege of looking good for Instagram. The payment trap is genius from the brand's perspective because it removes the single most powerful psychological brake on spending, the immediate pain of paying. When you hand over $600 in cash, you feel that. Your brain registers the loss. The pain of paying acts as a natural check on overspending. But when you split it into 4 little payments of $150, the pain is diluted. The purchase feels affordable. The brand gets their full $600, the bank gets their interest, and you get a hoodie and a tighter budget for the next 4 months. You paid more, you got less, and you did it voluntarily. This is the system. This is how the trap works, and the only way out is to understand it clearly enough that you can feel it clicking shut around you before you tap that approve button. All right. I've been building to this because everything I've said so far has been psychological, and psychology is powerful. But now I want to make this physical. I want to make this real in a way that is very, very hard to dismiss because numbers don't have emotions. Numbers don't care about your social anxiety. Numbers just are. Let's go back to our t-shirt. $5 shirt, $500 shirt. Same shirt. The logo tax, $495. Now, let's say instead of buying the $500 designer shirt, you bought the $5 shirt, which again is the same shirt, and you took that $495 and you invested it, not in anything exotic, just a basic broad market index fund, averaging around a 10% annual return, which is roughly the historical average of the S&P 500. What does $495 invested today become in 20 years? At 10% compound annual growth, $495 becomes approximately $3,327 in 20 years. But we're not buying one shirt, are we? We're talking about a lifestyle. Let's say you make 2 of these kinds of ego purchases per month. That's not unrealistic. A branded item here, a luxury accessory there, dinner at the expensive restaurant with the social media-worthy ambiance. Let's call it $990 per month in lifestyle inflation over what you would otherwise spend. $990 a month invested at 10% annually for 20 years, $748,000. Nearly $750,000, not from some complex investment strategy, not from starting a business or getting lucky in the stock market, simply from the gap between what you actually need to spend and what social pressure is convincing you to spend, simply from choosing not to fund the logo. This is what opportunity cost means in real terms. Every ego purchase is not just the money you're spending today, it is the future wealth you are permanently deleting. You cannot get it back. Compound interest is ruthless and irreversible in both directions. It works beautifully for you when you're investing. It works catastrophically against you when you're paying interest on financed ego purchases. Now let me explain the pricing side, because this is another layer of the trap you need to understand. It's not just the price tag, it's how that price tag gets in front of you. Why you pay more. Luxury brands engage in what economists call Veblen pricing, a phenomenon where raising the price of a product actually increases its desirability. This is the opposite of how normal economics works. Normally, when prices go up, demand goes down. But for status goods, when Rolex raises the price of a watch, demand goes up, because the price is the product. The price communicates exclusivity. The price tells your amygdala this will signal status, and so you want it more, not less. Add to this the power of retail algorithms. When you browse a luxury brand's website, the algorithm is cataloging everything: how long you hover over which items, which price points you're drawn to, what time of day you shop. The data is used to show you targeted ads at your most psychologically vulnerable moments. Stressed at work? Here's a notification about a limited edition drop. Feeling down about your life? Instagram serves you an influencer in that jacket you've been looking at. It's not accidental, it is engineered. And then there's the scarcity mechanism. Limited releases, only 3 left in your size, countdown timers on checkout pages. These are all designed to bypass your rational decision-making, to flood your system with urgency so that you don't slow down and think. They don't want you to think. Thinking is the enemy of the impulse purchase. Now let me bring this home with the most important distinction in all of personal finance, the distinction that separates the people who are genuinely wealthy from the people who perform wealth: assets versus liabilities, dressed up as status symbols. The wealthy use their money to buy assets, things that appreciate, things that generate income: stocks, index funds, real estate, businesses, intellectual property, things that while you sleep are working to make you more money. The middle class, the consumer class, uses their money to buy liabilities dressed up as status symbols. A luxury car depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot. Designer clothes depreciate the moment the season changes. A leased apartment in an expensive neighborhood gives you zero equity. None of these things are working for you while you sleep. They are draining you. The brands know this. They are counting on the fact that you see the car and the bag and the watch as investments. It holds its value, people say about Birkin bags and Rolex watches, the exceptions, not the rule, and only if you're buying specific pieces in specific conditions with specific documentation. The vast majority of luxury fashion, it is worth less the second you own it, and the brands benefit every time someone confuses a status symbol with an investment. Okay, I've spent a lot of this video exposing the trap, naming it, mapping it, showing you exactly how the mechanisms work. That was intentional because you can't dismantle something you can't see. But I don't want to leave you here. I want to give you the alternative, a real one. Because this video is not about living a life of misery and deprivation. It's not about wearing bin bags and eating rice and beans forever. It's about something much more powerful than that. It's about the freedom you feel when you stop needing to prove anything. The strategy I want you to adopt is what I call mind the gap. In the London Underground, the famous subway system, there's a famous safety warning they play on every platform: mind the gap. It refers to the gap between the train and the platform. Fall into it and you are in serious trouble. In personal finance, the gap is the space between what you earn and what you spend. And just like the underground gap, if you fall into it, if your spending meets or exceeds your income, you are in serious trouble. Your entire financial strategy can be summarized in one sentence: widen the gap and deploy the difference into assets. That's it. That's the whole game. Every financial decision you make either widens the gap or narrows it. The designer shirt narrows the gap. The financed car narrows the gap. The expensive restaurant's social pressure narrows the gap. The friend tax narrows the gap. And investing that $495 instead, that widens it. Now, practically speaking, how do you actually do this? How do you break the social conditioning, resist the peer pressure, and stop making ego purchases when every algorithm, every social circle, every billboard is screaming at you to do the opposite? Here is a framework. 3 shifts that change everything. Shift 1. Redefine what rich looks like. Stop defining rich as what you can show. Start defining rich as what you don't need. Real richness is not the car or the watch. Real richness is calling your boss on a Tuesday morning and telling them you're taking the week off, and being able to do that because you have invested assets generating passive income, and your lifestyle costs are low. Real richness is optionality, the freedom to say no, the freedom to walk away, the freedom to choose your time. No logo gives you that. No lease gives you that. Only the gap gives you that. Shift 2. Audit your circle. This is the uncomfortable one. I'm not telling you to fire your friends, but I am telling you to have an honest look at the financial pressure your social circle exerts on you, and to start building relationships with people who are on the same financial journey you want to be on. There is a famous saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If the 5 people closest to you are all making ego purchases, financing lifestyles they can't afford, and normalizing the friend tax, you will follow. Human beings are social creatures.
We mirror the behavior of our tribe. Choose your tribe deliberately. Shift 3. Wealth without burnout. Here is the final trap that nobody talks about. The ego lifestyle doesn't just cost you money, it costs you energy. When you're grinding 60 hours a week to afford a lifestyle that is fundamentally just a performance, when you are exhausted, burnt out, sacrificing your health and your relationships and your mental well-being to fund a monthly cycle of status purchases, you are paying the highest price there is. Your time is the only resource that is truly non-renewable. You can always make more money. You cannot make more time. And every hour you spend working overtime to fund the logo tax is an hour you are trading your life for a shirt. Real wealth is not working yourself to death so you can look rich on the weekends. Real wealth is building a life where work is optional, where Monday morning doesn't fill you with dread, where you have the space to think, to breathe, to be present, to actually live, not just document living for social media. That's the goal. That's what we're building toward. And the path starts with something incredibly simple. Stop buying the logo. Buy the $5 shirt, invest the $495. Do that consistently for years with discipline. Watch the gap widen. Watch the compound interest do what it does. Watch your options multiply. Watch the golden handcuffs fall away. And one day, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10, you'll walk into a room and you won't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Not because you have a logo on your chest, but because you have freedom. Real, actual, irreversible financial freedom. If this video made you think differently, even for 1 second about that next purchase, then I've done my job. Here's what I want you to do right now. Not in a week, right now. 1. Hit subscribe. I put out videos like this every single week. Deep, psychological, honest personal finance content that nobody else on this platform is making. If you're building real wealth, this channel is your community. 2. Drop your ego in the comments. Seriously, tell me what's the most expensive ego purchase you've ever made, the one you look back on and wince. No judgment. This is a safe space. We've all been there. Let's be honest about it together. 3. Share this video with one person in your life who needs to hear it. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The friend who just financed another car, the family member who's drowning in credit card debt but can't stop buying brands. Send it to them, not as a lecture, as a gift. Because at the end of the day, the brands are not your enemy. The corporations are not your enemy. The only enemy is ignorance, not knowing how the trap works and walking into it anyway. Now you know. Stop buying the logo. Start buying your future. I'll see you in the next one.